really sure what the New York Giants are doing here. To start the offseason in 2025, they re-signed Tommy DeVito and then later signed Jameis Winston. At the time, it makes sense. I mean, you have the 3rd overall pick. You maybe have a chance to draft a guy like Shedeur Sanders, so those two would be great to help develop Shedeur Sanders into being the future quarterback of the New York Giants. But remember, Schoen and Brian Daboll are heading into a lame duck year. And to save their jobs, they have to be competitive. And in a move that reeks of desperation, they signed Russell Wilson. Now the deal is worth $10.5 million in base salary, but it could be worth up to $21 million if he hits a bunch of incentives. Now it seems that the Giants have arguably the goofiest quarterback room in the NFL. They have Tommy DeVito, who is also nicknamed Tommy Cutlets, is every Italian stereotype personified. You have the Jameis Winston experience where it's a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but is a pick six waiting to happen. And then you have Russell Wilson, who has been somewhat of a journeyman in recent years, but comes up with cringe quotes. And at this point, I don't think a locker room can get behind him because he doesn't seem to be the most approachable. By adding Russell Wilson, this means that you're trying to compete in what seems to be a lame duck year for head coach Brian Daboll and GM Schoen. I understand the offense is going to need some juice and Russell Wilson might be the guy to do so. But as presently constructed, I'm not really afraid of the Giants offense because if I'm an NFL defense, I'm going to take away Malik Neighbors and force Russell Wilson to go somewhere else with the football. The Steelers decided to pass on Russell Wilson as they never really entertained bringing him back, and they still are waiting to hear back from Aaron Rodgers if he will indeed sign with their team for 2025. Now let's focus on Russell Wilson. This is likely his final shot of being a starter in the NFL, where he's bounced around from the Denver Broncos, where Sean Payton didn't want him, they released him. And with his recent stint in Pittsburgh, where he was in a quarterback battle with Justin Fields, and after Justin Fields didn't seem to really cement himself as a starter, Russell Wilson came in and had somewhat of a successful start to his Steelers tenure, but tailed off in the final 5 games, ending the season on a 5-game losing streak to the point where they got blown out by the Baltimore Ravens on the road in the NFL playoffs. And like I said, the Steelers seem to be happier waiting for an aging Aaron Rodgers who was coming off of an Achilles injury just 2 seasons ago, rather than bring back Russell Wilson. We know that Russell Wilson is a one-trick pony. He has never developed a mid-range game in the NFL. It's moonball or bust, and it was really exposed in the final few weeks of the year. Understood that Russell Wilson has made a name for himself with being a guy that can be elusive in the pocket, buy some time and find a guy deep downfield, but remember, he's been hampered by injuries as of late. He's gotten older as well, and he's just not the same type of quarterback that he was back in Seattle. Now, the issue is the Giants would never be in this mess if they didn't win a meaningless game last December against the Indianapolis Colts. That win costed them the number 1 overall pick, where they could have had an opportunity to draft their future signal caller like Cam Ward. And this is already coming off of a bunch of missteps that led to their eventual demise, because heading back to the 2022 offseason after Brian Daboll comes in, helps Daniel Jones have somewhat of a respectable NFL season, they decide to pay Daniel Jones instead of Saquon Barkley, let him walk eventually to Philadelphia in 2024, and the rest is history. Saquon goes on to have 2,000 yards in a single season, wins Offensive Player of the Year, and also brings home a Super Bowl championship with the rival Philadelphia Eagles. Meanwhile, Daniel Jones flounders after getting the bag in 2023, playing only in a handful of games and eventually tearing his ACL in 2023, later having a dismal 2024 season to the point where he's released and being a backup quarterback to Sam Darnold in Minnesota. At this point, like I said, this move reeks of desperation to try to save the jobs of Brian Daboll and Schoen, but I don't see Russell Wilson moving the needle because he seems to be the 4th best quarterback in the division, where you have Jaden Daniels, you have Jalen Hurts, and Dak Prescott. And the surrounding cast isn't really that great to I see the point where Russ at this point in his career can carry the roster to the playoffs. And at this point, if you have maybe adjusted expectations with a 6-7 win season being the ceiling of this roster, that might be enough to save their jobs. But if I'm a Giants fan, I honestly hope that Russ gets yanked. You get to see a lot of Jameis Winston. The year goes awry. You tank the year, and that leads to the eventual firings of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. You clean house, and then hopefully you land a top overall pick with the chance to get Arch Manning in 2026. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, Giants fans. What do you think of this move? Will Russell Wilson help your franchise win some games? And what do you think the Giants should do in the NFL draft?
Be careful though, it's spicy.